So today we're interviewing Jay Fisher, one of the partners at Bailey and Fisher PLLC law firm, and they are in the legal industry.
Yes, sir.
So first off, let's get right to it. What is it that made you decide to open up your own business?
Gosh, I became an attorney in 1990 and had practiced with two different firms for the first 5 years of my career. And I saw that I wasn't able to control my own destiny by being an associate. I felt like I would, for a couple of years, certainly I was contributing more than I was seeing in remuneration. In other words, I wasn't getting paid what I should have based on what I was producing for the firm.
Mm-hmm.
So I decided to break out on my own.
Awesome. What or who, if anyone, was your inspiration to kind of start up your own business?
I think it's probably fair to say my mom. My father was in big business and viewed himself, even though he was a senior vice president, he was kind of overhead. My mother had her own direct mail advertising company, excuse me, and I saw that she was making a lot of money by owning her own business. So I would think that probably was the seed that caused me to want to do so.
How did you decide on your legal business structure, such as a proprietorship, corporation, anything like that?
Clearly was going to be some sort of a corporation to have limited liability. That's the benefit of a corporation. Ultimately went with an S corporation, probably at the suggestion of my corporate attorney, as opposed to some other form of corporation.
As far as business plan goes, how much time, money, and planning did it take before deciding to open the business?
I would imagine my answer is different than others because I'm a professional. So what happened was I had existing clients, and ultimately, as an attorney, what ends up happening, or at least at that time, I think the laws are now a little different governing it. But back then, what would happen is you would communicate with the client, and the client ultimately decided whether they went with you or stayed with the firm you were at. Ultimately, there's a fee sharing if you're going to take a client from a firm, but I wasn't as worried as perhaps a normal startup business in terms of getting business. I knew I was going to be bringing work with me. I would say within a couple months, I went from making the decision to executing on it and opening my own practice.
Cool. How did you go about finding a location for your initial business?
I had mentioned that my mother had a direct mail advertising company. I ended up taking space in her office, just a little area for me to get my work done when I was first starting out and keep the overhead low.
So how did you get the financial startup capital to get that going for you?
My folks lent me, I had some of the money and they lent me some money. My best recollection is that maybe, because what ends up happening in my practice, you end up taking cases and there might already be costs expended on those cases, not just fees, but actual hard dollars out. And I want to say it was in the range of $25,000 or $35,000 of hard cost money that were what we call, quote, on the street. And to come up with that money, I could have probably gone and gotten a small business loan, but my folks lent me the money, which I had paid back in my first year of practice.
That's very cool. So you'd say it was successful first year and everything. You were able to, pay it all back, obviously.
Paid back all the debt and was able to generate enough revenue to, replace the salary that I was earning and then some. So it was, within a year I had already had it was cash flow positive, so to speak, for
successful.
Me. Yeah, and I want to say the startup for me was probably about $35,000.
So now on the marketing forefront, how, what, when, and where do you advertise or promote your business, or do you at all?
There's two ways. Again, I've been practicing now for 24 years. There's two ways that lawyers typically market or advertise. One is just advertising, where you're paying for ads and you're running ads, whether it's social media, TV, radio, whatever. And then there's marketing, so to speak, which is where you're creating relationships with those people that have the best opportunity to come across the people that would be your particular clients, and then those folks can make the referral. So I've always gone the marketing route rather than the advertising route. So it was really about creating relationships, whether that be with other lawyers that could refer clients to us, friends, family, people of in my circle of influence, so to speak, physicians that have the opportunity to treat the patients that I ultimately represented.
So, how would you say that building these personal relationships helped grow your business that you've had with all these people? Kind of might sum it up a little bit in there.
Peter Drucker, and I don't know how much, if this is a business class at all or not, but Peter Drucker is a management guru. He's passed away now. I want to say he lived into his 90s. But Peter Drucker said all business is marketing and innovation. And the longer that I have been in business, and granted, professional is a little different than a typical retail business, say, or something like that. But the longer I've been in the business world, the more I realize Peter Drucker knows what he's talking about, or knew what he was talking about, I should say. So marketing was everything. I mean, in my practice, if you don't have a client, what are you going to do? Yeah. So, that's the first things first. You got to get the clients. Yeah. And so, obviously, being a lawyer is about having clients to work with, and then obviously doing your job well.
All right. So, do you use any information technology to help you run your business? If so, what kind?
Sure. I'm thinking back to the early '90s. We've used database management and Microsoft Office since that time. Our firm here, we use something known as client profiles. I've probably used client profiles for at least the last 10 years, since '04, I want to say. Client profiles is a legal operating software. Allows us to keep everything in that's our database. That's also our merging for mail merge with Word and what have you.
As far as any personnel and human resource stuff goes, what do you think is the most important quality in an employee?
Probably somebody that takes pride of ownership in their work, takes initiative, doesn't, or I should say, looks at their job as part of a career, not trying to do the minimum, but rather trying to do the best that they can day in and day out.
What incentives, if any, do you offer your employees at your company?
I've always believed in creating a playing field that the people that have worked with us have known, hey, here's how I score a touchdown. Here's what's in bounds. Here's what's out of bounds. I think it goes back to reading a book called The Game of Work. I probably read about a decade ago, and it made it very clear you need to spell out to folks, hey, here's what we want you to do, and here's when you do it, here's what you're going to get. And so I've always created and have had bonus structures that allow our employees to do better as we do better, and we've always sought to have a direct correlation between the individual's contribution to the success of the organization and what they would ultimately get paid. And we've also had a 401k and matching programs and profit sharing plans. So 401k and profit sharing combination plan.
How has owning your own business affected your family?
I would say in two ways. One, it's given me, now that I'm better at it and better at creating the balance in my life, it's given me much more flexibility to be available. I have two boys that are almost 18 and 15, so a senior and sophomore in high school, and I've had the opportunity to be able to go to all their games and go to everything that's important in their development because I'm my own boss. Earlier in my career, I worked, it seemed like sometimes 6-7 days a week, 60 to 80 hours a week for years and years and years because I didn't have that experience and really hadn't created that balance in my life, hadn't grown the organization enough to have enough people to help me do the work to reduce my load.
Okay. What kind of day-to-day things do you have to make sure get done? Do you do?
As a lawyer, I will juggle the responsibilities of being the technician, meaning actually doing legal work, then the manager, making sure the firm is running and paying its employees and all its bills and handling our accounting appropriately and all those things, and then signing leases and just whatever may come up in the normal operation of the business. And then also I've got to be out there marketing, generating the business. So it's really a juggle of all those things.
From any feedback you've gotten, clients always seem to be happy with their service, and employees seem to be happy working here. And
absolutely, we've had long time employees, which is I believe goes back to the just treating people we would want to be treated.
What is the best advice you can give someone starting out in their own business?
Out there, but I would say probably the best two pieces of advice that I would give somebody is one, really, if you have the opportunity to work in the industry before you go out on your own completely, do that. That won't always be available, but if that is an opportunity, do that and learn from somebody else. And then two, make sure that you have adequate capitalization, that the business can be adequately capitalized, because most businesses fail for two reasons. I'm sure you guys have learned this in school: mismanagement or undercapitalization. They don't have enough money. They run out of money. So there's a lot of successful businesses just ran out of money too soon.
Is there anything else you'd like to tell me about your business or owning a small business in general?
I would say that to me, the biggest benefit has been the freedom, ultimately, the control of my life, and then financially, the amount of money that I've been able to make. And then the biggest downside is just how hard I had to work to get started.
Yeah.
It seemed like to really get to where I got, I clearly gave it everything I had for a long time.
And that pretty much wraps it up. I don't have too much more for you unless you got anything else you'd like to add about anything.
No? I don't know who's going to see this, but
Yeah.
if it's other students, I tell them, hey, set your plan and prepare and learn the skills you need to learn and go for it. Learn on somebody else's dime, meaning get your experience if you can before you just open your own practice or company. And then, of course, make sure you have adequate capital.
Cool.
That'd be it.
Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
I appreciate you sitting down in this interview for me.
Happy to help.
Thank you.
So.